the protectors, the guardians of the status quo. And that status quo in Washington has fought us every step of the way over the last 4 years. They spent millions of dollars trying to prevent us from reforming healthcare. Millions of dollars trying to prevent us from reforming Wall Street. They engineered a strategy of gridlock in Congress, refusing to compromise on ideas that in the past both Democrats and Republicans have supported. And what they're counting on now is that you're going to be so worn down by all the squabbling, so tired of the dysfunction, so weary of what goes on Capitol Hill that you're just going to give up and walk away and just put them back in power, or let them stay there. In other words, their bet is on cynicism. But Virginia, my bet's on you. My bet's on you and the decency and the good sense of the American people. And it's not a partisan bet I'm making. You know, when the other party's been willing to work with me to help the middle class, I'm right there with them. I'm happy about it. You know, I would have less gray hair if they're ready to go. Come on. When we cut taxes for middle class families and small businesses, we had some Republican support. That was great. We had some courageous Republican senators work with us to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We celebrated them. We embraced them. I'll work with anybody of any party to move this country forward. And Virginia, if you want to break the gridlock in Congress, you'll vote for leaders like Tim Kaine who feel the same way, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents. Leaders who will put people first and put the election aside for a moment. But we're still going to have some fights because there's some values that are at stake. There's some principles we've got to fight for. You know, if the price of peace in Washington is cutting deals that'll kick students off financial aid, or get rid of funding for Planned Parenthood, or let insurance companies discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions, or eliminate health care for millions on Medicaid who are poor, or elderly, or disabled, or kick kids off a Head Start, I'm not buying that. That's not a price I'm willing to pay. That's not bipartisanship. That's not change. That's surrender to the same status quo that has hurt middle-class families and everybody who's striving to get into the middle class for way too long. And Virginia, I'm here and I'm running for a second term because I'm not ready to give up on that fight.
All right.
I'm not ready to give up on that fight, and I hope you aren't either. I hope you aren't either. You know, the folks at the very top in this country don't need another champion in Washington. They will always have a seat at the table. They'll always have access and influence. Regardless of who's president, they'll find a way to have their voices heard. They've got money they can spend, there are lobbyists they can hire. The people who need a champion are the Americans whose letters I read late at night after a long day in the office. The men and women I meet on the campaign trail every day. The laid-off furniture worker who's having to retrain at the age of 55 for a new career in a new industry. She needs a champion. The restaurant owner who's got great food but needs a loan to expand and the bank turned him down. He needs a champion. The cooks and the wait staff and the cleaning staff working overtime in some Vegas hotel trying to save enough to buy a first home or send their kids to college, they need a champion. The auto worker who got laid off and thought the plant would never reopen, and now he's back on the job, filled with pride and dignity, not just because he's building a great car, but he knows he's building America. He needs a champion. That teacher who's in an overcrowded classroom, digging into her own pocket for school supplies, not always getting the support she needs, but knowing every day maybe she's touching that one child and something's going to break through. She needs a champion. All those kids in inner cities and small farm towns, in the valleys of Ohio, in these rolling Virginia hills, kids dreaming of becoming scientists or doctors or engineers or entrepreneurs or diplomats or businessmen or even a president. They need a champion in Washington because they don't have lobbyists. The future never has lobbyists. But it's the dreams of those children that will be our saving grace.
That's right.
And that's why I need you, Virginia, to make sure their voices are heard. To make sure your voices are heard. We have come too far to turn back now.
Mm-hmm.
We've come too far to let our hearts grow faint. Now's the time to keep pushing forward. Educate all our kids, train all our workers, create new jobs, rebuild our infrastructure, discover new sources of energy, broaden opportunity, grow our middle class, restore our democracy, and make sure that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, no matter what your last name is, no matter who you love, you can make it in America if you try.
Amen. He is so awesome.
Virginia, that's why I'm asking for your vote. I was backstage with David Puff. Some of you guys know he's sort of a mastermind, a campaign organization, and we were talking about how as the campaign goes on, we become less relevant. I'm sort of a prop in the campaign. He's just bothering a bunch of folks calling, asking what's going on. But the power is not with us anymore. The planning, everything we do, it doesn't matter because now it's all up to you. It's up to the volunteers. It's up to somebody knocking on a door. It's up to somebody making a phone call. It's up to somebody talking to their mom or their dad or their wife or their husband or grandma or grandpa. And that's how democracy's supposed to be. It's up to you. You've got the power. And that's why I need you, Virginia. Don't get tired. Don't get weary. If you're willing to knock on some doors with me and make some phone calls for me, grab some friends for me, turn out to vote for me, we'll win, Virginia. We'll win this election. We'll finish what we started. We'll move forward. Together we'll renew the bonds and reaffirm the spirit that makes the United States of America the greatest nation on earth. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Several battleground states that both presidential candidates are crisscrossing the country visiting, trying to snap up those last-minute undecided voters who are still out there. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Vaquera is traveling with the president and joins us on the phone from tonight's rally. And Mike, I've got to tell you, thousands of people, it looks like, waited out in the cold to hear the president tonight.